way back, said he would get here before we got through. But, for us to go ahead and we'll do so. Ask that you stand for the opening prayer, remain standing for the pledge of allegiance. Heavenly Father, we're thankful for our many blessings. Thank you for watching over each of us every day. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda item is to discuss, approve, or disapprove of potential 2015-16 budget increases or decreases in the following departments and projects. This is authored by Luana Kesprick, and I'll turn it over to you, Luana, so you can fill us in on all this.
Okay, Mary has supplied y'all with the list of potential increases and decreases to the budget.
That's it.
Yes. I will start at the top and give y'all a brief summation of what transpired in each department. County clerk, after the proposed budget was filed, I went back and applied the potential reductions that we had discussed at a meeting August 24th and 25th. In the county clerk's department, office's expense had been decreased by $5,000. The Odyssey conversion was moved from the county clerk's department to capital outlay. So you'll see those two decreases in the county clerk's departmental budget. Veteran Service Office, the office expense was reduced by $1,000. Special projects, 9/11 addressing and road and bridge permits, office expense was reduced by $2,500. Mileage/fuel was reduced by $2,500. Vehicles repairs and maintenance was reduced by $1,500, and conference expense was reduced by $500. Non-departmental, the Chapter 381 agreement where we reimburse HEB their sales tax and ad valorem taxes up to $300,000 over the life of the Chapter 381 agreement. That is the balance. That is the reduction is the difference between what we anticipate the taxes, sales, and ad valorem to be that will be paid out. Originally, the budget included $283,000 some odd. District clerk mileage we reduced by $300. District clerk Odyssey conversion also is reduced from that departmental expense and added to capital outlay, $191,254. County attorney, the conversion cost for Odyssey was also removed from the departmental expense into capital outlay, $171,388. Capital outlay, the first four items are Odyssey conversion from county clerk, district clerk, county attorney, and sheriff's department. Those are all increases to capital outlay. The EMS facility, I received updated numbers from Lorraine, and we are having to increase the expected expenditures to complete the EMS facility by $387,880.71. This is not an increase in the cost of the project, it's just what we're going to have to pay next year to complete it since it was not completed in this fiscal year. There was the discussion of reducing the expense of the fire alarm systems. We are in the process of having the fire alarms installed at 200 East Calvert and at 115 North Market. So that reduction is allowable because those will be completed in this fiscal year and expense to fiscal year 15. Camera security systems was reduced by $15,275, and that is based on updated numbers. Capital outlay, 115 North Market, $7,560. That is a reduction because those projects have either already been completed or will be completed. Building renovations, 111 North Brown was reduced by $50,000. That's the old Canal building. Jail, the amount anticipated to be paid out to complete the jail, $1,424,223.43. That includes $171,060 of recoverable architectural fees from HMC, $33,250 are what the court acted on at a recent meeting for the architectural fees for the restoration of the old jail into the archives records building. And then capital outlay jail legal, $70,000. That is an estimate provided by Jeff Chapman, which will include all the negotiations to recover what expenses we can from Hale Mills. The next department is courthouse/building maintenance, the fire alarm phone lines. We have to have 2 phone lines at 115 North Market, 2 phone lines at 200 East Calvert, and the 1 phone line here. The estimated annual costs are $4,500. Those were not included because we did not have costs in the original proposed budget. Maintenance tools was reduced by 1,000. CERA email addresses was increased by $72 due to getting the maintenance department into the Time Clock Plus system. And then the phone maintenance agreements for 200 East Calvert, 115 North Market, 119 North Brown, and 210 West Calvert, $10,000 a year. The waste facility, the vehicle/equipment of $40,000 was removed from the proposed budget. Sheriff Odyssey conversion, $253,677, $253,677 was removed from the department budget and moved to capital outlay. We had to add to the sheriff's budget Hill Country licensing and support of $8,310. That is the regular annual cost, which, depending on the completion of the conversion and the go live with Odyssey as to whether we'll recover any of that money or not. And then we had to add a part-time jail cook wages and fringe due to restrictions by the Jail Standards Commission on how often the inmates have to eat, how far apart between meals it can be, etc. That $15,261.56 is wages as well as the associated Social Security, Medicare, and retirement. DPS scale testing and lighting upgrades was reduced by $2,500. The IT department, the T1 lines, the MIS routers, the UVerse, the DSL, I'm put in the budget for 6 months at $21,000. The fiber and MIS router, once we have been established with fiber capabilities from AT&T for 6 months, that should be in the vicinity of $22,954.50. AT&T has told me that it could possibly be fiber capable, all buildings, within 2 months. I kind of doubted that, so that's why I extended it to 6 months. And I will tell y'all, that has been a very, very lengthy process. In fact, I was on the phone with them right before lunch trying to get confirmed numbers. But you better have your ducks in a row if you want to deal with people in Ohio that know nothing about Karnes County. Emergency management coordinator, there was the reduction of $3,500 to vehicle repairs and fuel, reduction of $27,000 for a vehicle, reduction of $1,000 for signage for that vehicle, and $1,000 for insurance for that vehicle. Road and Bridge, County Road 354 was removed from the proposed budget at the cost of $2,120,424. Trucks were removed at the cost of $315,000. Personnel and fringe, the proposed budget allows for 2 maintenance Tech 3s, which are the truck drivers, and all other requested new positions were disallowed, to the tune of $424,174.40. Road and Bridge Engineering was reduced by $100,000. and road materials was reduced by $671,610.70. Courthouse security, when the proposed budget was prepared, uniforms were not considered for the 2 bailiffs budgeted out of courthouse security expense. So therefore, those 4 items, the $1,200 for uniforms, the $91.80 for Social Security and Medicare, the $133.20 for retirement, and the 96 cents for unemployment will all be additions to the courthouse security budget. And Road and Bridge Special, the seal coat program for 2013-14, which is currently fixing to take wind, correct, Mike?
Yes.
We added that to Road and Bridge Special to come out of unencumbered funds of $735,216.22. And the reason that's out of unencumbered funds is it's in this year's budget, but it won't be spent, so it'll roll into unencumbered funds. All capital outlay out of general fund on the first page, those monies will come out of unencumbered funds. They are not going to be funded with ad valorem taxes this year.
When you get the pluses and minuses together, how does that compare to when we went through this to try and hit the rollback rate initially? Are we going to have to look at some of this again or what?
We should be adequately reduced to be at the 2632 rate. I still have those comparison pages to do because I just got those numbers from AT&T to be able to include.
Road and Bridge will be getting their 2 truck drivers, right?
Excuse me?
Road and Bridge will be getting their 2 additional truck drivers?
That is in the budget, yes, but none of the other new positions that you requested.
All the decreases and increases that are here, we're still at 26.32.
We're below that.
We should be below that.
You could go below that, yes, based on all the money that we're taking out of unencumbered funds.
When will we know how much below that?
What time's our next meeting? About that time.
Okay.
On Wednesday?
No.
Today.
Today? I'm sorry. It's 6 o'clock. Sorry.
Yes.
Okay. And
You forgot today.
yeah, no, it's 6 and 6:30. It's okay. That's when you're gonna let us know. What,
So then is that a thought of the court that we may go below the 2632? Because I certainly had not anticipated that where I need to do all those, everything.
we're all right at 26:32.
Yeah, I think that will fly.
Yeah.
My thought was that we said 2632, and we put back in for 1 truck and 1 more driver for Mike, and put the rest of it back into that road materials to keep it at the 2632, and put the rest back into that, whatever we have left.
So you're saying if there's $400,000 left, with that money, do another truck, a driver, and then the rest of materials?
Yeah.
To get us to the 26.32?
I don't mind giving him a driver, but he's got way too much equipment standing now. He don't need another truck. You go look at the yards. There's going to be at least 1 truck parked in every yard right now.
If he's getting 2 more drivers and he's already got spare equipment, how many drivers do you need, Mike?
I need another truck and another driver, what I need, because next
Why aren't you
year,
using what you've got?
I do use them.
Fella, I drive by the yards every day, almost all 3 of them, and there is a truck parked in the yard almost every time. You unhook that dadgum haul truck and stick it under another trailer and go. You don't need another truck. You may need another driver, but you'll need another truck.
But come by my office once in a while and I'll show you what I've got and go through it.
Okay. Well, I see 2 trucks that frequently are parked there, the one, the haul truck, and the one with the water wagon on it.
I've got truck drivers sitting in mowers right now, trying to get the county moved. That's why the truck's not.
Okay.
I have to utilize my mill right here.
That's why I said, we'll give you some help, but I don't think you need any more equipment. You got maintainers parked. We've been paying for that, and I've kind of watched, and I've noticed we pay for contractors and maintainers are parked, so,
We don't have that no more. So
Okay.
It's going to be a totally different year this year.
okay.
No more contractors are helping us, it's all online.
Well, in the proposed budget, there are 10 maintenance tech 3 positions budgeted, which those are the truck drivers. Then there's maintenance tech 2s, he has 2 budgeted, and those are bobtails or tandems, dump trucks, Rhonda
Yeah,
and,
well, they're right. They can't drive nothing else but those little boxes, that's all. And they are considered part of the truck driver.
Luana, if we're talking about maybe what, we have anything left over to meet the 2632, and we're all talking about maybe pushing another helper or something to Mike, how are we gonna do that between 6 and 6:30?
well, we'll be doing that between now and 6 o'clock, because I'd have to have those numbers ready for y'all to adopt.
That's what I'm saying, so how are we gonna know
Yeah.
what numbers are you gonna have ready for us? What,
I'm
we
with,
asked 2 or 3
If y'all are
different things.
making this additional request, that means Lawana's back to work.
Gosh,
I'm with James on the additional materials. I don't mind putting some materials money back in there. I don't mind giving him some labor money, but I'd like to see better equipment utilization before we buy any more equipment.
I just heard from them back.
So what do we do?
Well, y'all need to tell me what y'all want done.
We can, do you have a roundabout, I'm sorry, Judge, what?
no, we just have to decide what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Mike, how old are your trucks that you have now?
They're all fairly new. I've got 2 old internationals, and those are the ones that David sees parked a lot because they break down constantly.
All right, when we have a truck breakdown, we don't have a new truck, you have a driver sitting there doing nothing.
Right.
That was my point, David.
Yeah, huh?
Because
Don't we
they do
have
break
cross
down.
training?
Huh?
Don't we have cross training?
Oh, yeah, we do, but you gotta have a Class A license. to drive.
Yeah, but if a truck is down and the truck driver can't drive a truck because his truck's down,
He's
can't he
mowing.
do something else? Okay.
He's mowing, he's doing signs, they're doing something.
So
They're
they
not
aren't sitting
there.
idle.
Road and Bridge does not have an actual truck driver. It's all one of the duties as assigned to the guys. All of them are like that. But if you don't have the Class A license, you cannot drive a truck. And I've got 2 drivers with Class B license, they cannot drive the tractor trailer.
Right.
My point was, is he's not gonna hire contractors, and he has the breakdowns of equipment, did he have something to use? Go ahead and get it now, that was my point, to use what we had in tax money and do 1 truck now, that was my point, so. I'm not,
Yeah. Do we?
I'm not saying that he uses his equipment perfectly, that he uses everything, it's just, I can't deny what David says, I don't drive by and count trucks every day.
Well, I have that occasionally go by and I see them parked, but anyway, it's up to the court. That's my personal feelings, but I don't mind giving him some help, equipment. So, what, if we gave him additional help, gave him another position, how would that mess up where we're at right now?
I think it depends on what we have left, David, and I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, the cost of a truck driver, including all fringe, et cetera, is $52,360 más o menos.
Okay, and if we take this figure and
What?
Have you threw out some Mexicano?
See,
you've gone to the end of her
yeah, she's
vocabulary.
there.
She may know a few cuss words.
I know those two.
We have potential reductions here. How does this compare, and somewhere I should have it, but how does this compare to what the potential reductions were after we were trying to shoot for the rollback rate? Do you know what
Well, this takes into account a lot of other
things?
because we moved all those software issues out of ad valorem tax revenue into unencumbered fund balance from our savings account. So
Okay.
what y'all had reduced on that one particular day, trying to get back down to the 2632, would have reached 2632.
What I'd like for y'all to consider would be giving him an additional truck driver, work for a year, see if it works, add equipment next year if you need to, and give him some road materials back again perhaps. That might be a an alternative. Because actually, if I recall, when we got to it, whatever we needed, whatever the court needed to get to that rollback rate was being taken out of road materials. That was kind of the
That was the
rubber
court.
band in the deal. So if we allowed that to go back in there, that would give him a little bit more to work with. Would that help any, Mike?
That would help. Like I said, if that TERS money disappears next year like it's going, we're gonna be in bad shape, so we're gonna have trucks.
Yeah.
But we won't have money to buy trucks.
Us- Or you won't have money for materials or anything.
That's right, that's what I'm saying, but we can haul out the bids. But with only 5 trucks, you're not gonna get it done. So what I'm doing is I'm planning for the future.
Okay,
Because it is gonna go down.
let's look at a different way. You have 2 trailers that are on the 2 old trucks. If they're decent and functional, and hopper trailers like that can be rebuilt fairly reasonably, would a truck without the trailer help you any?
That would work. That's what I proposed from the deal, was just get a tractor.
Okay. That's up to the court.
And what it cost?
About 100,000. It costs between 100 and 115, somewhere in that range.
125,000.
100 now?
125,000.
The bid, he got a bid from
International.
Santex was 107, and I bet if we go out, that Freightliner and some of those others are gonna give you, Volvo are gonna give you some comparable bids.
Yeah, they were like 11,000 difference between international people.
Yeah.
Well, it's not much.
And I would go to every truck dealer in San Antonio and send them, come up with a standardized proposal, and if you want help, I'll help, and send it to each truck dealer and see what you get. I mean, I have my favorites, but I want the county to get the least expensive thing that will serve your purposes.
I'm trying to get something that I don't have to work on.
I understand.
Like
But
killers.
if you spec the Cummins engine that you have been with a 10-speed transmission and a fairly plain Jane 4-bag rear suspension on the thing, that's simple. Any shade tree mechanic can work on the back end of it. Now the engine's a different story, but
Yeah, they're all electronic now, they're
I know.
not, engines run forever, but electronics don't.
Yeah.
And that's when we're having all our problems on
Yeah.
kid is electronics.
they're
Because
sent.
the roads are tearing them up.
One $15 sensor shuts the whole truck down.
We gotta remember, we work on rough roads before we make them smooth, so no way around that one.
David,
Sir,
so you're saying that there's enough left on there, that way we can give Luana some numbers to work with? Truck driver, a truck tractor only, and materials, the rest of the materials?
Materials.
Till we get to the 26.32?
well,
All of the materials that were taken out, or just
No.
some?
Just to get up, I think, to the 26.32.
yeah, take the driver first, the tractor second, and then as you subtract whatever's left
Whatever's
goes
left
to
materials.
materials. Will that work?
And you said the tractor would be 100 and,
I'd figured at 115 for safety. It should be under that, but I think that would be a safe figure.
125, just in case.
Huh?
125, just to be safe. We can
Okay.
always go lower.
And it's-
Luana, what's this gonna do then next year?
well, if you think you've had a little chewing this year, and next year you're gonna have a big chewing, because if our rate or our values drop, which they will because the price of oil has dropped, you're probably looking at anywhere from a 49 to a 55% tax rate.
Next year?
Correct.
But we
Okay.
still, excuse me, sir.
Well,
So instead
we've
of-
gotta look carefully at what we do this
Yeah.
year to
Yeah.
see where we need to go.
Because if you go back to the 2632 and you're talking 52 cents next year, you're going to be doubling your tax rate. So what kind of irritated constituents do you think you might have chomping next year? The alligators will really be jumping, not just biting.
I agree with you on the revenue side, but at that point, the services side just has to take some. Sheriff's Department is going to bear some of it. you know, there may be some staff positions lost in the courthouse, whatever it takes to get it back to that. It doesn't always have to be an increase in revenue. I mean, at some point,
But
you
I'll
can't afford the
guarantee you,
services.
your staffing is not going to reach the kind of reduction that you're gonna have to have necessary.
Well, I know that, but we also still have new production coming on. I mean, we're still fortunate to have 18 rigs running in the county, and I realize it's a much lower rate, but, you know, they're generating some stuff. You know, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of a situation. I understand what you're saying. I guess maybe in this instance, I'm overly optimistic. I figure that, anyway.
When are all evaluations graded in January?
Excuse me?
When are all evaluations set in January?
January, first, end of the year, like everything.
All right, I just heard a professor, economic professor from SMU on TV yesterday, and he said that they expect prices of gasoline to stay below $2 a gallon into the spring. So that's when they'll be evaluated, so evaluation's gonna be lower. We can count on it.
I don't question that, but
Yes, because about last May or June, they were projecting that the cost would be going up in October.
Right.
And we're knocking on October, and we're the lowest we've been in a long time.
That's right.
We will have a drastic reduction in revenues next year.
What happens if we set a tax rate at, what was it, 30-something?
32.
What happens then?
There's the potential of a rollback election if enough petitioners
This
sign.
year?
And then if that would transpire and the election would pass, anyone that has paid their taxes at that point in time will be due a refund back to the rollback rate.
I understand, but the downside of that, if people want to get in their pocketbooks and have a rollback, that's all right with me. That's not our fault that happened, I don't think, but it's going to be our fault if we set this tax rate low and then it goes to hell next year, and it's going to, I think. We're going to be sorry we had this whole conversation.
Well, and it goes
That's gonna
back
be
to
double
5 or
up.
6 years ago when it dropped to 19 cents. The court should have never let it drop that low.
We've been there before and should have learned something, but didn't seem to.
Yes, sir.
what, my heartburn over this is if we adopt the higher tax rate and the higher budget with everything in it that's in our black notebook, and there is a rollback and it's successful, and the county has spent at this level for a number of months, then am I wrong in thinking that the remainder of the year is going to be awfully lean?
Well, what could be done if we go with the 32? I know Road and Bridge took the major hit out of that reduction. Those monies that were tagged as reductions to Road and Bridge, those could be set in a contingency fund in Road and Bridge, where Mike would have to come to court for every planned expenditure, whatever, out of those monies, and court would have to approve it before it could be done. So if you'd still have control, and that doesn't mean that, you know, any department would have willy-nilly to go out and just blow. The court's gonna have to, you know, do its managerial duties.
Well, I mean, with that, the courthouse, let's see, say this a different way. EMS, Road and Bridge, and the Sheriff's Department are the three big budgets. And they're the ones that potentially would be the budget busters if there was not some, as you say, contingency or some holdback, whatever you want to call it, to make sure that if the rollback was successful and that all of a sudden you have less money, that you had something that was pushed aside that you could say, okay, well, that just doesn't get done.
Did you say if we collect above the 26, put it in a contingency fund for Road and Bridge? Is that what you suggested?
It said those cuts that were discussed the end of August, which included major cuts to road and bridge, those monies, that seems to be everybody's concern, is road and bridge and the potential frivolous activity there. Those monies could be set aside as a contingency in road and bridge. And before those monies were spent, you could put the caveat on it of, number one, we have to wait and see if a rollback election transpires and passes. If it does, then those monies are gone away. They're not going to be used. Or number two, that you require Mike to come before court before spending of any of those monies. You know, the additional road materials, he'd need to come to court with a plan. This is what I'm going to do with those road materials. The equipment, he'd have to come to court for approval before he purchased that equipment. He'd have to come to court to add those additional positions before he adds those positions. But I wouldn't think any of those kind of things should be done before we know if a rollback election transpires and or passes or fails. It should just set aside in that.
Brenda, didn't you say that this could stretch out into almost half of next fiscal year? Did I misunderstand you?
Someone would have 90 days after the date of adoption, to present a rollback petition. The court at that time has 20 days to validate that petition. If they do not validate it in 20 days, it is deemed valid, and an election is called. An election can be called no sooner than 30 days nor more than 90 days after the date that the petition is deemed valid. So you could look, so you're looking at Christmas. They have up to like Christmas, then you'll have 20 days to validate it. Then you can have no less than 30 nor more than 90 days, so you're looking possibly into March for election. It may not take that long, you know, I don't know. And then if the election is successful, we would go back to the 2632. We would have to mail out all new statements, and anyone who has received, who has paid, we would have to get refunds.
But we don't have to spend because we have budgeted. We don't have to spend any of the money. Well, that's not true. That's dumb. But you don't have to spend a large part of it. Because it's budgeted until you see what happens. You've got to use some sense, and sitting in here mouthing about it isn't very sensible most of the time.
If we do get wind that if we adopt the 3232, we get wind that there is a petition circulating, I think it would be the duty of the court to educate the public.
They're hard to educate.
But you know what I'm saying, to go out and educate the public on why we need the 3232
It'll hit the
ensure that the
pocketbooks
election doesn't
easier over time rather than all at one time.
Yeah.
What?
It'll hit the pocketbooks easier over time rather than all at one
Oh,
time.
I agree, yeah.
There's no question that's so.
And a lot of people too, as several of us have talked, a lot of the taxpayers are 65 or over, so on their homestead, they are frozen. They will not see a tax increase on their homestead. They may on their royalties, or they may on their agricultural land that they're also getting an exemption for ag use, but they are not going to see a tax increase. They may see a tax decrease if we ever go below a previous year's rate again.
I'm 79, that's why I'm arguing so hard. No, it's just that everybody needs to understand all of the parts of this thing, and it's not anything that makes a whole lot of sense always. It seems it makes more sense to me to budget than not spend a great deal of it until we see what happens. And if people want to vote a rollback and pay pay the price in the next 2, 3, 4 years, let her rip.
Well, I would say I have a respect and a fear of a rollback. Because if you get 750 signatures for a rollback election, all of those people are gonna go and vote. And the rest are not.
Yeah, I was gonna say, almost for sure, if you get the petition, it's gonna pass, because those are the motivated voters on an election that is a one-issue election. And so you probably are gonna get it handed back to you, like Pete said.
Well, they're gonna get it handed right back to them on down the way, and they're gonna pay more money. And if they're so dumb that that's what they're gonna do, I'm not sure how we can keep that from happening one way or another. We don't have to spend the money. We don't have to be spendthrifts.
Well, how are you going to let them know?
Let who know?
Let the taxpayers know.
Well,
Who you're talking
you're here,
Yeah,
or
I am
you're
here.
gonna talk to them, and I'm here, and I'm gonna talk to them. And I assume everybody here is
That's what
going to
you're
talk.
saying, though. You said if they're dumb enough, they don't
Well,
have
that's
enough
kind of the way I
information.
feel about it.
Well, I know it, but I don't think at this point they have enough information so that they can vote sensibly, responsibly.
This hasn't changed in the 50 years I've been practicing law here in Karnes County. We've been through this same conversation a number of times. People, the average citizen here should understand it. If they don't, I'm not sure they can be educated. There are some people who have been office holders and are no longer office holders, but they understand this, and yet they are strongly against it. Some are.
I know that people, if they know, are better, if they're more informed citizens, they do better. They're informed taxpayer, they do better.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but I'm not sure how you're going to educate the ones that are not educated at this point.
Well,
They haven't been paying attention if they're not educated on it, seems to me.
Well, I asked Brenda when we visited one day, I happened to be in her office, excuse me, and she referred me to Luana, and it was lunchtime, and I pitching your ball game. Anyway, I asked what happens, or can you, better way of saying it, adopt a higher tax rate and the lesser budget, which is basically what we're talking about doing, is adopting a higher tax rate and then not spending the money. But I don't know if that's feasible. Can that be done?
Well, you have to have a budget that supports the adopted tax rate, because the logic is you set that tax rate to fund your budget.
Okay.
And that's why you have, in this case, you would tie money up in a contingency
Yeah.
so it can't be spent.
Yeah. And, I won't say half, a substantial part of the people who are complaining are already complaining that we're setting on too much money. And so that would exacerbate that. You would wind up setting on even more money on that theory, so.
Well, the things that we've seen from the public here, we've had 2 public hearings, I believe. And the first one, we had 4 speakers, 5. And the second one, we had 8 or 9, I think. Out of all of the people of Karnes County, and that's how many were
Interested enough to come.
to come and talk about it.
It's not exactly a groundswell, but.
No, it's not at all a groundswell. It's not even a small swell. And it seems to me that we were elected to use our brains and do it in a good way. I'm not sure that this is what we're doing, but I know that nobody said a word to me since we've been wrestling with this problem.
The
outside of this route.
the Indians in Runge are a little bit more on the warpath. What I've noticed is the people who have come to this, and there have been a scattering from Karnes City and Falls City, but the big push seems to be, or the big concern seems to be in my precinct. So I haven't gotten a huge number of phone calls, but I have gotten phone calls.
I haven't gotten a single one. Maybe I'll get.
I've probably
five or so
gotten,
tonight.
I've probably gotten 3, but those 3 are networking with, a dozen others, half dozen others.
Luana, could you pinpoint your most expenditures, like salaries? I know that has a very great, you have to do those.
Well, you don't have to. You have to do the official ones because those have been publicized and there's not time to republicize any reductions or increases in elected official salaries. So those
Well,
have to
that's a good
stand.
amount of the budget. That's a very high expenditure of the budget, and I know that was.
Well, as David has alluded to, your big cash cows, for lack of a different term, are the Road and Bridge, Sheriff's Department, and EMS, because they are your biggest departments within the county. They require equipment to operate, not just a calculator or file cabinets or things like that. And so that's your major expenditures,
And salary.
and salaries and fringe.
Dave, I'd like to express maybe the reason that you might get a little more calls in your precinct. It goes back to the concept of what's happening in your precinct with the road and bridge. And I'm not at all concerned about an increase in taxes. I want to pay our fair share in taxes. There's no problem with that. But the Road and Bridge Department the last 2 years has gotten over $20 million, which is a huge increase. We passed a $3 million bond prior to that, which was more than our road and bridge had ever gotten before. That money has been spent hauling out limestone to a great expense. It costs a lot of money to buy the material and have it hauled. And there's nothing done to protect it. It washes off in the rain, it blows away in the wind, and we can't seem to have a plan. And, in our precinct, there is we're getting 0 roads asphalted this year. If you want to call 0.7 miles being addressed, I don't call that being addressed in precinct 4. In James' precinct's getting 18 miles. We just need to spend it wisely where we see some benefit, we see some progress, we have blessings with this money. We cannot afford $400,000 and $500,000 miles of road. We're not TxDOT. And pulling those rehab roads off is the most prudent thing you can do. But they really need to be seal coated. And when you ask yourself, with $40 million the past 2 years, what have we gotten done? On the road and bridge, over $40 million have been given to that department. And basically, Mr. Wozniak will tell you we hauled out 140 miles last year. Don't know where it is. I can't ever find anybody to provide that. And this year, he asked for 11 new employees. That's fine. The money he's asked for, that's fine. But his plan is to do 58 miles worth of road. 58. And last year we did 140 with the same amount of money, and that I don't really understand, but we don't have a plan, so it's really hard to follow.
And that's probably part of the reason that the people in Precinct 4 are a little more upset, is because of the huge expenditures in road and bridge, and it having been done primarily in the west and north part of the counties. But
When I add up the total amount in Pete's precinct, he's gotten over 30 miles worth of road paved. And Mr. Underbrink stood up here the other day and said, oh, it was virtually equal, and that's just not so. David's precinct has barely gotten 10 miles. That's a third.
Did you show them the map, David?
yeah, they have a copy of the
I have
map.
the
They said
I
it's
have all
going to
the
be an equal
years.
share throughout the whole county.
That's not true if you can add.
Colors.
You don't have to look at the colors, you add the numbers, it's math. And I have all the year Silco charts.
Well, I will say, just because monies have been budgeted in certain departments doesn't mean 100% has been spent every year. As we well know with the 1747, because that hadn't been barely dented this year. And that's almost $7.5 million that needs to be spent first right out of the box,
It should
right
have been
away,
spent
or
years
otherwise
ago.
if the state ever allocates anything else, they're gonna laugh at Karnes County and say, you didn't spend what we gave you the first time, we're not
Why
gonna
they
give it to you the
haven't,
next
they can
time.
discontinue the program.
That would be Mr. Underwood.
And we'd love for the money to be used on the roads. That our infrastructure needs improvement, and we have a blessing to do that. But without a plan, I don't know how any business can operate.
Sir, I don't have any, personally, I don't have any problem with the 32 tax rate. I think my problem with the budget is it's got so much fluff in it that we've gone from 5 years ago, a $3 million budget to one which we're about to approve, which would be, what, in excess of 50 million, is that about right? Something in that neighborhood, in excess of $50 million in 4 years. One of the things that I see is that we have road and bridge and all these departments who have these millions of dollars, and nobody is held accountable or responsible for that department, whether they expend the funds properly, if they're supervising it, it's just, we just kind of turn them loose and then we get a big surprise. And I just think that the budget's way overinflated.
That's why I'm not as concerned personally about next year, as I think there's plenty of room for reductions.
But how are you going to take somebody, say that they get whatever their salary increases are this year, you're not going to take money away from them.
No. All you can do is cut positions at some point. And that's probably, in the future. I mean, I see that coming. If we're at that, I don't think personally that the county can sustain this level. If it could sustain the level at $100 oil, we can't sustain this level of service and this level of expenses when oil is down and revenue is down.
How are you justifying that? It's according to the experts, the price of oil is going to be down for at least another year.
Yeah.
How can you, with that knowledge already, justify the expenditure of another raise? What, this makes 3 or 4 raises in 3 or 4 years. I mean, we keep giving raises, we keep doing this, we keep giving more money to go to the bridge and the police department or the sheriff's department and wherever else it goes, and we just keep, our budget is just, we are not going to be able to sustain it this year, much less next year.
The court can control the budget if they choose to.
Yes, sir.
No question about it.
Yes, sir.
You have chosen to hire an engineer. I don't know whether any advertisement has been out, that might correct some of the problems.
Well, you can't advertise for it until the budget's approved, so you have
That's
money
right,
for
I
his
forgot
salary.
that. So-
Mike can't buy his truck or trucks or whatever it is, or hire his people until there's an amen on the budget. Luana told me that because I asked somewhat the same thing.
I forgot.
Well, I was just hearing everybody out, and I always have something to say. On the 26.32, I would just say, my opinion, leave it at the 26.32 and not risk a rollback election. Because if we go to a 32.32, that's only 6 over. So next year, if we have to double it, if it's going to be 20 or 26, it's going to be the same thing. And we're saving 1 year of getting hit with a rollback election. Have to do it's all costs us money. If you have to send the checks back, money back, it's manpower, women, it's employee power. Excuse me?
It's a lot easier to swallow if you have a 32 this year, and you can't make your budget next year. You go from 32 to 50 instead of 26 to 52.
in Karnes County, it's not gonna be, it's gotta be, if you go over the rollback, it's gonna 1, 5, 10, 15, 20.
And if they hit that rollback, and you guys have the budget for next year, it's gonna be 52. I don't, even if you have the rollback, it's still gonna be 52, or whatever.
It'll calculate that, much less going above a calculation.
I've got hit a lot, with people, they go to my shop, they call me, and nobody is in favor of the 32.32, and I don't mind it even myself at 32.32, but
If you went to 32 and they're currently paying, what is the current rate?
23?
23.
23? What's the difference between somebody that has a $100,000 house and their taxes are 23 a day and it goes to 32? What are we talking about, $200?
Not even.
6 cents times 100,000. I mean, times 6 cents times 1,000.
So $60.
$60.
That's what I said.
That,
Who's gonna put up an argument, who in this county has put up an argument over $60?
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
They do.
But so many of them
They don't
are
talk to me about
frozen.
it, but I know they're doing it.
But so
I know
many of
they're
them
arguing
are
about it.
65 or over
Brenda.
and are frozen. It's not gonna affect them at all.
Yeah.
The 32 on a $100,000 home would go up $93.05.
Okay. I think a lot of the folks that are adamantly opposed to it in the Runge area are not the ones who have the $100,000 home. They're the ones that have the $2 million royalty checks. And everybody wants to get in
You're
the...
breaking my heart.
I know. But they're the ones who are most concerned because...
That's not the point. See, that's not the point. Probably it's not the tax. It's the fact that, just like you said, the lady called another day and wanted her road fixed. She wanted her road paved like the other people have their roads paved. And
That's your problem.
our road isn't even touched. I mean, it's like it doesn't even exist.
Well, I agree with you, but
I realize that we're not talking about a huge amount of money on a 6 cents difference. I'm with you on that. But that's, be what it may.
I think sometimes it's the principle, the fact that your taxes are being raised that people are looking at too. Because, that's just...
But the thing is, if people want what they want the sheriff's department, they want the EMS, they want the road and bridge department, they want that department. Somebody's got to pay the bill.
Yeah.
That doesn't come for free.
And then when people just say, we want all that, we
Well,
don't want our taxes raised. That's just how people feel, I think, in general.
I don't live down the Halls Road, and I know it is terrible, but in the area that we do function, and this is a plus for Mike and a plus for the oil companies, the roads in the area that I'm in are better than they've been in my lifetime. I mean,
$40 million getting them that way.
yeah, but I mean they're decent, but there are still areas that are
Yes, they can, they will.
missed.
Come down my road.
Huh? Come down your road.
See, there's a lot of disparity, and some of that, if the company wants to pay to haul it out, they most certainly can and most certainly will.
Yeah. Well,
And there's many circumstances, I'm sure, that we've had that, nobody knows where that, we've been gifted any of that material. But, the concept is the accountability.
Just to take a break from road and bridge, I was a part of getting the sheriff's department 6 more deputies just to run traffic out in the county because their coverage out there is so bad. And that's been over a year now, hasn't it? Over a year. I bet I haven't seen 2 sheriff's deputies go down my road in 18 months.
I don't see
What happened to them?
I don't see any on county roads.
My point is, we give them the money, they get the assets. What happens to them?
They go to 181 where it's easier.
Whether it's the sheriff's department, road and bridge, or any other department.
That's
what
why I say putting up 30-mile-an-hour speed limit signs is a waste of money because nobody's out there enforcing them, and the shredders shred them down half the time. So,
$500 million for a sign maker and signs, or whatever.
but anyway,
Sheriff's Department is making very good progress with pretty good amount of money on their bill.
they are.
They popping over doing 70 miles an hour on a 30-mile-an-hour road, and they are doing a very good job.
Absolutely, but when you're anti-law enforcement, that's where you're gonna send that message. because we're out there writing plenty of tickets on county roads.
They
So
are.
there's not, you guys might, and I can tell you that for sure. But that's what I'm saying, so.
They are, and they really hit the area, like Gillette area, there's nobody they think is out there. Oh, let me tell you, when they hit them hard. And if you put what the sheriff's department is making the tickets, and if you could put that toward the road, we'd have a lot more pavement, because they're doing a good job.
Well, that's
Yeah, I know
good.
that
I'm
you're
glad
out
they're
there all
doing
the
it.
time.
I haven't seen them, and I'm only one person, so, but,
So you
as
got
long as they don't
172
stop me for an
miles
open
of road.
container violation.
72 miles
Yeah,
away.
you know, there's a lot of room.
Okay, guys, it's 2:31. What do y'all wanted to do between now and 6?
You better go drink.
Do you have a roundabout about what it would be that we have left out of 2632, 400, 500,000, so we know what to plug in a position?
400, 500,000 out of 2632? No.
No. 'Cause
No.
What exactly did we take out of, didn't we take out from, that we put into the capital outlay? the-
803,000 is the computer conversions that is coming out of
Right.
capital outlay now, which is out of unencumbered funds. So that is free tax money to be allocated somewhere else right now.
See, that was,
So then we have, I'm sorry, David.
go you.
We have at least that, minus the increases, the smaller increases that we have, which I just added up real quick, it's not much. So that's a roundabout about what we
Now,
have.
of course, that's in general right now.
I
It would
understand.
take a reallocation of the tax rate to move it to any other fund.
Yes. Okay, David had mentioned a truck tractor, you had mentioned the tractor with trailer. Is that what you had mentioned?
Bob said
And-
Mike said he could
If
fix
he-
his old trailers.
If he can live with 2 old trailers and a tractor,
Tractor's fine.
You can fix one of those older trailers, or
Yeah, like I said, I'll take a new truck, and I'll take a trailer too, but I got 2 new drivers that just come on board, that's gonna take 2 of those trucks.
You don't have them yet.
Well, no,
Budget's
no,
not
the
approved.
drivers, yeah, no, I ain't got the drivers yet, but that was 2 of the
You
trucks.
got a Class A CDL?
what do you think?
Huh?
You got a Class A CDL?
Pete?
Yeah, everything that I'm hiring is Class A with the tanker endorsement. That way they can run their water trucks too.
How about, Mike said he can do it with a truck tractor, how about the truck driver, the tractor, and the rest in materials?
that's okay with me.
David?
That's fine,
That sounds good.
So 125 estimate for the tractor.
yeah.
That's about what y'all said, right?
Yeah, it'll be a little under that, but that's, figure some room. Yeah, I was gonna say, you're gonna come in under 115, but you do away with dual exhausts and fancy cab
Do
and,
away with Peterbilt.
yeah.
So the action the court is looking at is adding a truck driver, a tractor, and the difference to materials, and using the 2632 tax rate.
Yeah.
See y'all. Can we adjourn?
Would you,
I got work to do.
sorry. One last thing. Mrs. Carter is here. Is the court taking care of the courthouse and the issues that you have? Because I know that you're always concerned about these things.
Yes, we have, the money's budgeted and we are in good shape with our next budget season. It's looking good.
Okay.
One thing, God, I'm sorry. One thing before, I know that Donna said, I know you have a lot to do. Okay, on the road and bridge, budget, request forms and all that, it has 100,000, it's road engineer 100,000 or administrator 74,260. So, what exactly did we do the last time? I thought when I had to put in for an engineer, but we're gonna keep, who had the road administrator, which is now, but as an assistant. But right there, the way it states right there, it just has and it has 100,000. So what happens if?
When the discussion was made and the court took action, it was we would budget for an engineer, but if we don't have one, then we would have an administrator at the salary, the 74, whatever. That's why it shows in the budget as the 100/, because it's only one position. We would have one or the other, an engineer or an administrator.
Well, if you have an engineer, he has to have support, and he's gonna be engineering all these jobs, and he don't have time to supervise the road construction.
You have two foremen to supervise.
No one's advocating getting rid of Mike Wozniak.
Sir?
But I would suspect if we had our own engineer and we're paying $100,000 or whatever we agreed to, and we cut loose the engineer that we're paying way more than $100,000 to, and he's doing the same job.
Right. I understand where you come from, Maurice, but on the paperwork right now, as it goes, it's and it's only $100,000. And say, for an example, we get somebody fresh out of college, and they got 4 years experience with another engineer, they got their stamp, whatever you call that. They come in here, we give them the job. There's not room for like the road administrator, which is now what would be stepped down to an assistant. We would lose that assistant. It would just be the engineer. Is that what you get? It would just be the engineer. But if he needs some kind of support, where would we be? Or say he needs it 2 or 3 months, then we end up with.
So in other words, what you're saying is there needs to be a sub position underneath an engineer, should an engineer be hired?
That's what I think. There should be I don't know what, like a new line item saying, road engineer assistant at the 74,260. If it doesn't work, and it looks like.
Wait, if you're hiring an assistant, why would they be at the salary of a full administrator?
We have to.
Yeah, if you're hiring a road engineer for the county, Mr. Underberg could go away. Why would you need Mr. Underberg?
Right.
Because he has a whole lot to do, and he can't, the engineer to get these roads ready, can't do all of that,
If you
And
keep, if you,
get the roads taken care of
if
too.
you, let's just take, for an example, if you keep Mr. Wozniak as an assistant to the road engineer,
Yeah.
put any title on him you want to. Why in the world do you need Mr. Underberg or any other engineer when you have one in-house? That would be like asking, we've got a county attorney, but we'll have 3 assistant county attorneys. What are we doing here? I mean, we're duplicating efforts just to have another body.
What you say? We hire a road engineer. We do away with any other engineers because
Exactly.
we have our own in-house engineer.
Right.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. We don't need another engineer because we have our own in-house at 90, 80, 100,000, or whatever.
Whatever.
What I was saying was, Sue.
Oh, which rate are you going with? I'm sorry. Which
They're
rate?
looking at 2632 is what the majority is.
2632?
I don't know. There was different opinions. That was my opinion. I mean, I don't know what everybody else.
Well, there is in the position title an assistant road administrator that could be included in that, could it not, somewhere or the
It's
other?
also defined by statute.
Excuse me?
It's also defined by statute.
Okay.
Which that could be, I'm not saying there couldn't be that position, but I don't think it should be at the position of an administrator if we have an engineer.
I agree with you. I'm certainly in agreement with that. It's going to be
The
a,
engineer that we have.
You gotta realize also, if you don't ever hire an engineer, then your assistant is gonna basically be doing the road administrative part, just like right now. Like right now, the road administrator, if you hire an engineer, and the way it's written right now, this is the way I read it. If you hire an engineer right now, I get laid off. And if he lasts here 3 months and he tells y'all bye, y'all back to nothing. That's the way it's written right now, because it says and or.
It says or.
Yeah, not and, it says or. So you can only have one of them titles up there. What James is saying, and what I'm understanding, is if you make me the road engineer assistant, I'll be doing just what I'm doing now till you hire the engineer. Once you hire the engineer, then he assumes the duties of the road and bridge. But if he walks away in 3 months, well, then it's Mike step back up again and get back to the plate.
What I was trying, not to interrupt you, but what I was saying is, do that, do another line item and everything, but you stay as the road administrator until if and we hire an engineer. When we do and if we hire an engineer, then you're not the road administrator no more, then you step down to an assistant.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, you need to put it in now,
Because-
because if you don't put that in now,
Well, that's what I was saying, because we're gonna put it in now with that material amount that we have left over. We have to adjust it now and stick it in there, because if we don't do it, and we do hire an engineer, and he gets offered 200,000 at another county, once he got 6 months experience, we're back to point A.
Okay, the question there would be, you're gonna create a new position. You don't have an engineer yet.
No.
So does Mike stay as road and bridge administrator at
That's what I said.
74,000, blah, blah,
That's-
blah? And then when an engineer is hired, then Mike drops down and takes a cut in pay and Mike's gonna stick around?
No, I didn't say nothing about the pay. The pay remains the same. His
No.
position title removes.
No.
That goes down.
No.
Maybe the engineer should determine if he needs somebody and who he needs.
That would be another idea, you know, if an engineer comes in and says, you know what, I don't need no support at all completely, brings it up to the court, then that'll be another obstacle that we can meet up then.
What's the salary, David?
But
of the
until right now, I
assistant?
think that, because
50,000.
we need a road administrator right now. But if we hire an engineer, put him in put you down as an assistant, you're still gonna be doing the same amount of work. You're still gonna be doing the same job.
What if he sits here and says he don't need an assistant?
The what?
What if he says he don't need an assistant?
Just don't spend the money.
The engineer.
Yeah, if y'all said leave it up to the engineer, and if he said.
No, that was just something Scott said, and I said, well, that's something we could look at, not, something we could look at because he might say, I can do it all, I can do the engineering work, I can run it and everything, which I think that's, I mean, I don't know if it could be possible, it just depends on what he's gonna, 6-7 days a week, I don't know what he's gonna put in there.
In the salary survey, there was a position created for the survey of assistant road administrator, and that salary at the midpoint range is $50,061.44. That would be similar to a chief deputy clerk for Carol or chief deputy clerk for Denise. So you can't have an engineer or an administrator as the leader, and then if you hire an engineer, the administrator steps down a level by title but keeps the same salary. That's not equality. That's not.
That won't work.
That's not right.
But the engineer is also getting a bump in pay too from that side.
That's because they're an engineer. I mean, if y'all want to tag an assistant position out of some of those funds that might be available, that's fine, but I think y'all need to be very cautious with that salary because, you know, let's say that we advertise for an engineer and we don't get one for 3 or 4 months and Mike continues it as the administrator at 74,000, whatever's in there. Then in 3 or 4 months, when we do hire an engineer, that position's gone and the only thing that's available is its assistant administrator. Is Mike or anybody else gonna take a $24,000 drop in pay per year? $2,000 a month?
No, but you may find someone new.
Exactly. But I mean, there can't be a guarantee that even if an engineer is hired, that the administrator position stays at the salary and at the title that it is now.
I agree.
Because you'd have a duplication of duties.
I personally believe that it would be wise to put in that assistant administrator position as a fail-safe and go forward and see what occurs in terms of the advertisement. My thoughts on the advertisement for an engineer would be to ask for one with business management experience that had hands-on, not just someone who is a set-in-the-office professional engineer, and I know that there are some out there. Hopefully we could hire one and then determine where to go from there. And I'm not, what Mike chose to do, if he decided to stay on at a reduced pay, okay. If not, then I guess if we would look and see what was available, but that's just a thought. And we're now crunching numbers and
Well, I was just looking at the midpoint range plus 1.7%, which comes out to $50,912. So then put it in at $51,000 for that position.
Yeah, remember, that's for an assistant road and bridge administrator, not an assistant engineer.
What?
That's for an assistant road and bridge administrator.
yes, sir.
Correct.
But I won't be the assistant to a road and bridge administrator.
Not now, no.
No, that's why I said even then I won't be. But that's a falsified title.
Well, the title is a technicality. We're trying to do numbers and
You might have to be an engineer, but his title is administrator.
come on, guys. 2:45.
I know David said punch it in for the assistant, but punch it in at 51.
Yeah, whatever.
I say punch it in at what he's doing right now, because he's gonna be doing the same job. My
But
opinion.
he is the administrator now until an engineer is hired.
I-
You're saying when we have an
understand.
administrator, we also need, when we have an engineer, we also need an administrator? That's what you're saying?
No, not an administrator, an assistant engineer, that he's gonna be helping. Unless the engineer can do everything on his own, I don't know, I'm not an engineer, and I don't know if I.
But right
if I
now,
could-
as the administrator, James, he's running the entire department. As an assistant administrator, he would not be the one responsible for the whole department.
We have David as an engineer, we pay him right now as an engineer, right? We have him at pay, if Michael was running it all completely, or the road administrator, we would have need David. We're still gonna have another engineer, and we're still gonna have Michael. The engineer's gonna be doing what David's doing, we're just trying to save, go from 100,000, not pay 300,000 or 400,000 a year. I thought that's what we were trying to do. So what I said,
I personally don't think
you know
that's
what I mean,
right.
right? We're still gotta, if
Not
David,
the same
if
salary.
Michael's doing it all alone, then we wouldn't need David. We're gonna be spending all that money on David. We're trying to reduce that amount by hiring one at 100,000, but we still need Michael. What makes sense to me is, I mean, so I keep it at what I punch it in at, and that's, I mean, I'm only one decision.
I agree with James.
Wow.
If we hire an engineer, he's gonna be busy engineering stuff.
It's gonna be doing what David does.
So let me ask you this, is Michael gonna continue to work 4 days a week? At $74,000 a year?
He's gonna continue doing your 40 hours, right?
He's a salaried employee. He doesn't do 40 hours. He does whatever it takes.
That's what you're supposed to
I do
do.
40 hours plus.
Okay, point. I do what you mean.
Because I work Monday through Thursday and have the courts on Fridays for the last 2-3 months. I'm out there on weather problems. I mean, I'm out there.
Well, I favor the position, but I don't favor it at the higher pay scale. I wouldn't mind even the higher level at this, which is 55,000, but certainly not at the existing scale, so, you know.
I agree. I agree. It's not right to pay him what he's paying now as an assistant administrator to the administrator. The engineer is also the administrator of road and bridge.
Yeah.
We're not hiring an assistant engineer, we're hiring an assistant administrator. And if he's doing the whole job for 74,000, he doesn't have to do the planning or anything else that the engineer's gonna have to do, plus go out and engineer the road. He does, that person, whoever it might be, shouldn't be paid $74,000.
That would be another exact instance. Tall got my attention. Robert does, or the position of chief deputy to the sheriff, does everything the sheriff does or has the legalities to do, but he certainly doesn't make what the sheriff makes. The county clerk's chief deputy, the district clerk's
Right.
chief deputy, they do the exact same job, but they don't get the pay of the official.
That would be 25% less than the other one. On percentage basis, what do you make less than the sheriff? About 25%?
4,000 less, you figure, I make 51 and he makes 55.
So that's a lot less than 25% that you're doing. And this would be 25%. Like I said, we're gonna do comparisons like that, it's easy math.
Okay, but then you look too at law enforcement, they are 24/7, 365. And Robert does a whole lot of hours more than his required hours because he's the contact go-to person, poor guy.
I think this conversation right here answers your question about why you get the pushback on the tax rate. I think that answers your question, that conversation, how you're going to spend that money with a lot of money.
We all need to make some decisions, please. Clock's ticking. Nobody's gonna like it if I don't have numbers here.
So as of right now, as of right now, Luana, we have truck driver,
Tractor and
tractor,
materials.
and then the other materials, and then we have an assistant if an engineer is hired. We have one, David said 51, I said leave it the same, Pete said leave it the same, so that's where we're at right now.
Okay, so then if you have an assistant to the engineer, and then you're still gonna have two foremen out there? So really, what will the assistant to the engineer be doing?
Basically, I guess what he does right now, because we have an engineer right now, David hired.
But David's not here every day
Okay.
doing the job, on the
That's what we're
job.
trying to reduce that, the pay that we're paying him. I think that was the argument, right? We're paying him like a high dollar. And like I said, we could revisit it. If the engineer comes and says, you know, I don't need an assistant, I don't need two foremans, you know, I can do it all. We can look at that. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, this is a really
You'll probably the best thing to do. is get
bad
hired.
comment, but what happens if it's a female administrator or engineer that applies?
What would be the difference?
Well, that's my question.
It's the same to me, man or female, they're all equals. I don't know what, I lost you.
Well, because we're talking about chief deputy positions as opposed to the clerk's district and those are female, and y'all aren't even considering equality for those paid positions. But yet you're wanting, in fact, the chief clerks are getting a cut in pay this year because of the error of the salary survey. But yet y'all are wanting to leave Mike at the same salary when his duties are gonna reduce. Or you're wanting to leave the position at the same salary, not Mike, but the
Right.
position,
I know what you
when the duties are gonna reduce. He will not have the responsibilities that the leader of the department will have.
And statutorily, there isn't that created position. Statutorily, there's either a road administrator or an engineer, one of the two.
If you take Mike's current salary of around 74,000 and take 25% off of that, that takes it to 55,500. If you add the 1.7 that the court agreed for an increase, that takes it to roughly 56,500. I think that would be about as far out as I would be willing to go as far as a administrator, and that's diverging from the midpoint, going to the maximum basically on that one.
So I believe we need that position, no matter who we are as an engineer.
Not 74,000.
It's not a discussion of the need of the position, it's what salary you want to assign to it.
Well, I'll pitch this out there, y'all can shoot at it. I would move that we add an assistant road administrator position to the budget to be utilized in the surplus money that might be generated, as Luana has mentioned, of 56,000 at base salary of 56,500, and that already has the 1.7 applied.
I'll make a statement that this would say, that would be saying that Mike won't be the assistant after an engineer's hired, but I would second that motion so that we get it on the books.
Okay, thank you.
I know Mike won't take it for that. I'll second that motion.
Thoughts, Judge?
They're not to where I could say that loud.
Oh, excuse me.
I will say that the court, when making decisions, in my opinion, should think about the taxpayer monies and not the individual person that might or might not fill a position.
That's right.
Is it really too late to be trying to change the budget right now?
Thank you, Terry.
I was
It's getting
thinking
later
that
and later by the
all
moment.
this was quite a long time ago, but.
This is the Karnes County way.
Yeah, exactly. Has been for 16 years.
What did they do last year? Exactly what they did this year
And the year before, and the year
and the year
before.
before.
Procrastinate. Good thing I requested this meeting.
Thank you.
Maybe I shouldn't have.
I'm glad that you reminded me.
So we're not even saving a million if we're working on that. Put the truck back in and,
No, we'll be utilizing some of those monies. So there's a motion and a second. Do we want to call for a vote, Judge?
No, then yes. I hadn't wanted to. I'm still presiding.
Okay. I will tell y'all, David, I guess, will judge you too. Historically, it has been the action of the court that any salaries and associated fringe that are set when the budget is adopted are set by position, that if a position sits empty, those funds cannot be used anywhere else in the budget. They cannot be increases of pay for any other employees that are there or anything else. They are specific to position by salary. When the
But we
budget is adopted.
we move money around all the time. I believe you can there too.
Well, there is no statute that does not allow it, but it has
That's
been the
right.
policy of the court that when a budget is adopted, the positions and the salary for those positions are set for the year. And those, if that position is empty, those monies can't be moved elsewhere for,
Well, they haven't been. It's
Right.
not that they can't be.
Right.
I'm sorry.
but that's how the county has adopted the budget every year. With
Not
those
with
strings.
that deal that you can't change anything. We changed something either today or last week or about the budget.
We've done line item amendments, but they haven't come out of salary. They've come like road materials to fuel or road materials to the Silco program.
I mean, you're saying that because there's money in a budget that's called a salary, that you can't change that.
That you cannot, the habit of the court historically has been.
That's a different thing. Their habit and what the law is two
Right,
three different
it's just
things.
policy of Karnes County that that's how the budget
Where's that
has.
policy written? I haven't seen it.
It's not written in.
That's right.
All right, check.
No, it was before me, Pete.
I would,
No, it's not. I inherited it.
I'm absolutely new, but I would hope that that would be a situation where if money was not expended for the intended purposes, that it was not directed or diverted somewhere else. To me, that would be a abrogation of the responsibility in the situation. It should stay where it is unless it comes before the court, which has happened and is changed at that point. But I understand there's probably nothing etched in stone, as the judge said. This is strictly custom, not statute or.
It's just something that was agreed on every year, but it doesn't, I mean, it has to stay that way.
Well, listen, get ready to move on. We've got a motion and a second, if I remember, before the court.
Yes, sir.
What's the motion?
The motion is that we set aside money out of the, I hesitate to use the word surplus, but the difference in what we originally agreed to and what Luana has come up with for an assistant road administrator position at the pay scale of $56,500 a year. That would include the 1.7% pay increase that the rest of the county employees are getting this year. I guess that's it.
And there was a second.
Second.
I'll second.
And what are you making now, Mike?
74.
74?
With the raise.
To me, that just is lowering Mike's salary, is all we're saying.
It would be, but in essence, the way I think from what Luana said, the way the budget is set up, it's engineer or administrator, so it would not only, yes, it would lower his salary, but if an engineer is hired, he would, as he said a while ago, basically be gone. So, if he should desire to stay on at this, or if someone else was needed at this, it would be available. But it's up to the court. Vote how you want to.
I understand that, but I don't see Mike continuing to work for $20-something thousand less that he's making now. And that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Maybe you could correct some wrongs in the so they do a good living.
Well, you you all run for office and get up here and then you can do, would be mine.
Wish I were qualified.
You would,
I think.
you're qualified as we are.
Certainly as I am.
We've got a motion and a second before the court that, let's vote on. All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. 2-2 to vote. Fail for lack of
A majority.
a majority.
Okay.
So,
I'll put a motion out there. Make the motion to, same as David, take it out of the funds that were, not to call it surplus, but out of the funds for a truck driver. Tractor, you estimated at what, David, about 125 or less?
Yeah, we had it at 125.
And an assistant position at the current salary is 74, I don't know exactly what it is, the one, 74,260? I gotta put a motion out there, if I don't, we're just gonna sit here, if we put it out there.
74, 424, 60.
74, 426.
what is that?
That would be the salary for a road and bridge administrator as it is in the proposed budget.
And then after that, the rest in materials, back into the road and bridge.
Salary plus fringe, et cetera.
Yes, ma'am.
Added to that.
Yes, and that's my motion. The same thing as David, except that everything David said, except mine would be up to the 74, not the 56.5. 74,
424, 60.
424, 60.
Is that,
He would carry two titles. Assistant and.
No, he couldn't carry two titles, that would be illegal.
Eddie,
So y'all are only talking about if you hire an engineer.
no,
If-
that's not what we're talking about.
That's what I understood.
Well,
Is that not right?
You're saying that, I guess he stays the road administrator, and if we hire an engineer and he's the assistant.
Yeah, correct. That's, I want to make sure that's what y'all are trying to say. And it's still making 74,000 as
It's just,
assistant.
yes, that's just my motion.
Because what David was proposing was the same thing, except he was saying that then he would
56.5.
move to an assistant and at a lower
At
rate.
56.5.
Okay. Just want to make sure. It's only if the hire an engineer.
He moved to an assistant, yes. So, second.
there's a second to the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion failed for one majority.
I made a motion, David made a motion.
Okay, let's get us finished here, so Luana can do her number crunching. Let's go back, forget the road and bridge administrator, assistant, whatever, and let's put in basically what James said, that we would add one truck driver and one truck, and the remainder of any funds available to materials for next year's budget. Does that make sense?
What now?
Okay. Out of any unutilized funds in the, I guess it's 26 point whatever cents it is, budget that we were working on, any unutilized funds would go to hire Mike one driver, one truck tractor, and the remainder to go to road materials.
Do we still have Mike at this point?
He ain't quit yet.
We would still have him, but if we hire a road administrator, that would eliminate his job.
Yeah. Then we have to figure
If we hire-
out.
I'm sorry, if we hired an engineer, that would eliminate,
His
you
job.
wouldn't have the job.
Yeah.
get this here.
Let the engineer make that decision. He may have a position for Mike or be able to work something. That's basically needs probably to, if he's going to run the show, he needs to know, he needs to have some flexibility. And I'm thinking there's probably some place we could find the money.
But without putting an assistant in there right now, at whatever price, at whatever salary to whoever it may be, he's not gonna have that option because the salary is
Yeah.
set. He's not gonna be able to create.
Well,
he's not gonna
that's
get-
just county policy, that's not written, so you
Right.
know, the court can
Right.
do whatever. You could move money out of road materials, you could move money out of
But
the,
create a position in the middle of the year, can we create a position? I know we've done it before.
if you take money from something else.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that's a doable thing. We're trying to overthink it maybe a little bit.
I think so, but
But if we do this, that gets us to a point where Luana can do her numbers, which she is getting grievously anxious to do, and we can move on. Second, somebody, nobody?
the only reason I don't second that, David, is because we hired a road administrator, then we lose the current person that we have in position. And like you said, the engineer may need an assistant. We don't know that. It's up to the engineer. So I really.
No second, none? No.
Well, that's just me. I don't know.
Okay.
Or does this mean that, if we advertise for an engineer and we don't get anyone to apply, or we don't have anyone that we hired, that Mike stays on?
He
as a
stays
salary
on.
now? His
Either
salary-
or.
Is his salary funded in this budget?
Yeah.
The salary of a road administrator is funded in this budget, yes.
It's an either or.
That's why it says order. It's just either one.
I'll second that motion, so Luana can get some figures and we'll set the clock.
Any other discussion? I'll say one thing, I'm not seconding a motion or making a motion or voting for a motion so we can do something that's stupid.
Well, I don't blame you for that. Maybe I am.
That's it, all in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign.
How far away is Shelby?
He is, getting into Stockdale.
Lord.
30 minutes?
30 minutes.
Did he call?
You wanna
It'll be
recess
30
for 30
minutes.
minutes? Can you get to
Do you want a 30-minute recess, Judge?
Let's take one until 3:30. Let's stop for a minute.
Okay, that's
What
fine.
would that do for Luana's?
Luana, you can borrow my office.
I need an appointment with my beautician, because my grays are gonna show.
You may need an appointment with your psychiatrist.
I've never employed one of those.
No, we gotta get this thing done.
Call the meeting back to order. I'm just thinking what we had. I don't even know where we were.
You want me to update him or
Clerk.
you want me to update him? Want me to update him?
Go ahead.
All right. Judge, is that okay? With your
Yeah.
permission?
Well,
Or do you want to update him?
go.
There was a couple of motions on the table. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I may get it wrong. One motion, David had made a motion to give Road and Bridge another truck driver, a truck tractor, for not more than $125,000. An assistant, if we hire a road engineer, and the assistant to be paid $56,500. And then the rest of the amount of money go back into the materials where we had removed it. Am I missing something, Luana, there?
This is
We're
just,
at 2632, we're
This
not at
is a-
3232
Yes.
anymore.
this is at
These
the
discussions all are at 2632.
the revised budget figures.
It was made, seconded, and then it was voted on, it was 2 against 2. And then I went and I made a motion for, give him a truck driver, give the Road and Bridge a truck driver, same truck tractor like David had said, but not over 125,000. Get an assistant if we hire a road engineer, but leave the assistant at the same thing that Mike Wozniak is making right now, and then the rest in materials.
Which is
And-
$74,424.60.
And that was seconded, and it was 2 against 2 on that one. And then there was another one that David made, not to mess with the position at all, just to go ahead and give him a truck driver, a tractor, and the rest of the materials. But if we hire a road administrator, then that means that the position of, a road engineer, then the position of an assistant would never exist because we wouldn't have made it. And that failed too.
You're the tiebreaker.
Okay, if I remember, okay, what are we working on first? The engineer?
All of it in one motion, Shelby. We were pushing it all through one motion.
Not the engineer.
No, not the
Yeah.
engineer.
Assistant road administrator. I mean,
Would it,
It would either be assistant to the engineer if we hire an engineer.
what it is, Shelby, is that the paper, the way it's written, it's road engineer or, road engineer, 100,000, or road administrator, 74, 420, 460. But it doesn't have for an assistant or anything like that. So if we have a road engineer, whoever the person, they keep referring to Mike, is Mike there in it right now, they would be gone. They wouldn't be in the county anymore because there's not room for an assistant or anything. So we all agreed that maybe what the judge did, what David kind of said, Pete said, I said, kind of an assistant would be good. So when we figured out to get an assistant, then we were kind of fighting on what the pay for the assistant should be. David said 56.5, I said leave the 74, 420, 460. That kind of make it a little bit more clear.
Okay, was engineer for sure is there.
The engineer's there for sure, yes, sir.
Yeah. This is,
As an employee.
Or let the
Or-
engineer decide.
I'm sorry. Or Scott said that whenever the engineer comes in, maybe let the engineer decide what he wants to do. But if he wants an assistant and we don't have one in there, even if it's at the 56 or 40 or 80 or 100, if we have an assistant there, he can either let it go or keep it, or that's just something that could be looked at later on too.
Or you could set up a contingency fund with salary and fringe to be utilized to fund that position out of the excess that's going into road materials. So you would have the ability to fund a position should it be necessary.
Oh, I see what you mean.
So y'all threw this road material stuff in there. I thought we had set on the road materials as it was.
we did, but
Because
A
of the
little.
fact that we are taking all the computer software out of capital outlay, which is out of unencumbered funds, that frees up $800 and some odd $1,000.
All right, 800?
Yes. And so of that, reallocate the tax rate where that excess money goes into road and bridge, and it can fund one driver, one tractor, and they said the rest are road materials. But then they started talking about this additional position.
Okay, when we did it on tractor, it was one truck, and one employee, wasn't it?
In the proposed budget as it is right now, it is 2 truck drivers, no trucks.
No truck, okay. That's what it was just two.
and we're leaving the 2 drivers, we're adding a driver, right?
That's what's proposed right
No,
now.
no trucks.
One truck.
One tractor.
One
not trailer
tractor only, use it
On one
existing
tractor.
trailers.
Just a tractor, okay.
Yeah.
One tractor,
At a maximum of 125,000.
2.
Now, this is in the budget, and what we were going to do was add one more driver.
And that was pretty cut and dry, right,
Yeah.
David? It's just
Yeah.
when we came in with the assistant, it's for,
The contentious part is what to do, if anything, with providing an assistant. Should we be able to hire an engineer, and then what the assistant salary should be. I think there was a consensus that it was a good idea to put an assistant salary in, an assistant position in there, but there was not consensus on what the salary should be.
I agree with the assistant because I don't, what if this engineer leaves? What if he doesn't stay?
Yeah.
I mean, what if he doesn't stay?
Yeah,
So what are we back to square one?
yeah.
we kind of called it too. What do we do?
Either that or your foreman pick up the slack like we've had operate before.
Yeah, but I think if you go back to the assistant, it ought to be at the 56, not the 74.
See what, and I'll tell you how we came up with that, is I used the upper figure for this. I also took Mike's salary and took 75% of it, came out about the same thing. And then I added the 1.7 wage increase, across the board wage increase, and that comes up to 56,500. That's how that came about.
56.5,
Yeah.
okay. So, do I need to make the motion, or what? Who's got the motion, or what is it?
It's, no motion on the table.
No motion before the.
All right, well, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm in favor of the engineer, But I think we should keep that assistant there at the 56.5 rate. That's my opinion, because just in case we lose somebody, then we can work from there. Because hopefully, if we find one, we lose one engineer, we should be able to find another assistant to the road, to the engineer, assistant. What do you call it?
Well, that would be the way to
Assistant road
title it, would
administrator.
be assistant to the road engineer.
Assistant to the road
Which
engineer.
we don't have.
Right, that's what they're saying is, if an engineer is hired, then the position of an assistant to the engineer would be filled either by the current road and bridge administrator or by someone else,
Someone else.
if there's an engineer.
Well, I mean, I don't think we ever got to that point. We nailed around and talked and voted on several things, of which that wasn't one. I don't believe.
Okay, let's try. If it don't die, if it dies again, it dies again. I move that we fund one additional tractor at $125,000 maximum, one additional driver, an assistant road administrator at a maximum salary of $56,500 contingent. No?
The only thing I'd say there is, if you name it that, that means now, if no engineer is hired and Mike remains as the road administrator, then he could hire an administrator's assistant.
I was fixing to do that, contingent on hiring an engineer.
Well, that's why I would title it assistant to the engineer.
Okay, assistant to, okay, I'll retitle it. We would put in the budget the position of assistant to the engineer at $56,500 and dedicate the remaining monies available on the 26+ cent tax rate to road materials.
That's the whole motion.
That's a whole motion.
Second.
But you also had the potential of not using David Underwood.
Well, we still have that in the budget.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what happened. We didn't have anything before the court. This is a new motion.
Yes, sir.
Can I make a suggestion? How about breaking that into 2 or 3 motions? Keep it separate.
Where's our parliamentarian?
First, do a motion, let's withdraw what we just did. Do a motion for the assistant to the road administrator.
That's fine.
Or to the engineer, road engineer.
That's fine. I withdraw the motion. Shelby withdraws the second. I move that we create a position of assistant to the road engineer at a salary of $56,500.
Second.
Do we have a road engineer?
Not yet. This contingent on the hiring, of an engineer. Got it?
Yes.
That doesn't make any sense to me, I'm sorry.
Well, it would only come into play if an engineer was hired.
Why would we have why are we worrying about an assistant if we don't have an engineer?
Only because of what was mentioned earlier, that you would wind up with a gap in there with possibly a need for someone. And as Shelby said, if the engineer didn't stay long, you would have someone in position to fill the gap. That would be the only thing. It would be a fail-safe situation. But
It would allow the engineer to sit down and do his planning that he needs to do, while the assistant to the engineer could go ahead and make sure everything else is being followed up on and catch all the little fires that would be started.
phone calls and nuts and bolts.
We've got Mike Wozniak is something, I'm not sure.
Road
what y'all-
administrator,
He is road administrator.
Making 76,000.
74.
74.
But excuse me, go ahead, sir.
No,
The way the road administrator position is set up, it's or engineer or road administrator. So if you hire an engineer, road administrator goes away. And this would give you another tier or another person in place to do it. I mean, it's more money, and I'm not always in favor of spending money, but this might be wise money to spend.
I just can't see how that's smart. But
What's the purpose of hiring an engineer if you already have an administrator? I mean, what's the ultimate goal, I guess?
The cost of the engineering firm is the issue. We pay David Underbrink and Naismith Engineering a crap load of money. And we can do it in-house at a fraction of the cost.
So kind of like the IT person?
Absolutely, that's a good example.
That's needed.
That's a perfect example.
I have a motion and a second.
well, what's the most?
Assistant to a road engineer if an engineer is hired to create that position.
And what if an engineer isn't hired? What do we do then? I mean, I don't know. I just,
Stays as is.
Yeah. It's a contingency. It doesn't happen if he's not hired.
so that if the motion carries, what are we gonna have? We're gonna have what? What are we gonna hire? We don't have anybody, we're just talking about what, if I understand.
If the motion passes and the budget passes, as I understand it, Luana can verify this, I think she knows it certainly better than I do, we would advertise for a licensed professional civil engineer with whatever credentials and requirements we wanted to put on it at $100,000 salary. That's what's in the budget now. And if that person was hired, then and only then would the assistant road engineer come into being. That's what we're talking about now. If that person was not hired, Mike stays exactly where he is, and the assistant road engineer position is not utilized at all because we do not have an engineer, so we wouldn't have an assistant to the engineer.
And that's how it needs to be titled, assistant to the road engineer, not assistant road engineer.
Assistant to the, be sure that's,
Yes.
okay, to the road engineer.
Because you aren't making the assistant be a qualified
An
engineer.
engineer, yes, I got you. Good point.
Okay, that's the motion now
Yes, sir.
that you made.
Yes, sir.
And there was a second. You seconded that motion. Discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. All opposed to the motion, right hand. Okay. Motion did not carry. Failed. 3-2.
David made it, I'll make another motion on the second, just to put another one on the table, and then from there we'll keep going. Make the same motion that David made with the assistant to a road engineer. Is that right, Donna? That's the way. An assistant to a road engineer. If one's hired, that's the only way we'll hire him. That the salary is 74, 424, 60. Said it so many times, I don't know if that's it. Is that it, Donna? That's my motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. What do y'all show the motion as? What have you got written there?
To create the position and fill the position of assistant to road engineer pending the hiring of a road engineer at the salary of $74,424.60.
Yes.
Any discussion? I'll just say I'm not gonna vote for that either. I can't see hiring an assistant and not having, I don't know. I'm the only one that's saying anything apparently.
What do you mean, Judge? The assistant won't be hired unless an engineer's hired, right?
Well, I don't necessarily understand it that way, but.
The assistant position would only be filled once a certified state of Texas civil engineer person is hired.
If, and then it's even up to him if he wants a
Yeah,
position.
it'd be up to him if he would want to have the assistant to him or to her.
It's available.
It's available.
Him and her won't do it. Y'all gotta do better than that. Well, I'm sorry. Just him and her.
Well, an engineer could be a female.
Sure it could. But making the motion that way, I don't think is.
I was just making that was comment. Who else? Who's got the motion?
James has
James
motion,
has
Pete has
motion.
second.
And does everybody understand the motion? I assume, I don't know whether they're done.
Yeah, I think you second.
You got a second? Yeah, you're
All right.
good.
All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried 3-2. So we have whatever the motion says.
David, now we have the next ones on the,
Yeah,
on the truck tractor and all
yeah,
that.
let's, if we want to do them one at a time, I move that we allow Road and Bridge one more truck driver position. As stated earlier, Luana had the figures on it.
I'll second it.
At the salary of a maintenance tech 3.
Okay? Maintenance Tech 3 here. Somewhere here it is, right here.
37,957.92 if y'all want the exact.
Yeah.
Here's the summary,
Yes.
37-1.
957.92.
Excuse me.
And there was a second to the motion.
James.
I did, James.
Okay. All right, any discussion? All in favor of the motion, signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. I'm voting against. 4-1, the motion carries.
Okay. I further move that we would, excuse me, allow Road and Bridge to purchase one tandem axle truck tractor not to exceed $125,000 based on public bids.
I'll second it.
Question, why do we need another truck tractor?
To replace the international.
He says the two old trucks are
The
bad.
old internationals are all pretty.
Okay, what about the haul truck tractor?
That's one of them, and I got the other one. Going in and out of the hall truck right now. Unless we go to San Antonio, then I'll put the new one.
Yeah.
That would be a break down.
Since he doesn't have the, in there to hire contractors, if the truck breaks down, you'll have another truck for that
And,
tractor, you'll have a trailer, you can keep working.
and he's got two trailers coming off of these two old internationals, so between the two, he ought to be able to keep one of them running.
And how many will that give you?
I got 5 right now, and I'm gonna do is replace one and use that in one of the backup. In case one of them goes to San Antonio, About something I could throw up underneath that trailer and keep using.
So you'll have 5 operational
It's outside right now.
with 10 drivers? Even my calculator doesn't understand that.
Okay, you'll have 5 trucks.
Yeah, I got five belly dumps, 2 water trucks, 3 tandems.
Okay,
10 trucks.
but I'm talking about the tractors.
The tractors, I got the 2 old Internationals.
Okay,
Those are the oldest ones there.
are you gonna get rid of any of those, or are you just gonna swap it?
We were just gonna keep it like David and I were talking the last time here in court. It'd be a good backup. That way, if one goes to San Antonio, I could throw it up underneath there and kind of cripple it around.
They're only worth somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000, so,
Yeah, they're
All right.
not worth anything, that's really.
Better to keep it.
yeah. As long as they're functional,
It gets to the point where they're not gonna do any good with throwing surplus, because that's where you go.
if a major repair comes up, then it needs to go on down the road.
Okay, everybody clear?
Yes, sir.
All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. I'm voting against. I don't think any of us know what we're doing.
Mike, back to the driver situation again. You have 2 drivers that are Class Bs, and so those are your, how many functional bobtails you have? 3 or 4? 3. Okay, so 2 of them are on there. Then you have to put one of your Class A drivers on one of the bobtails. Is that correct? That's 1. You have 2 water trucks, that's 3. And then you have 5, that'd be 8, so you got,
About the distributor.
distributor,
The
okay,
distributor's the option.
okay,
That's why there's sometimes the truck park, because when we run the distributor, that's gonna be what a truck park.
okay,
And
okay,
then we get that chip spreader, the 3 tandems are gonna be in the seal coat crew with the chip spreader.
yeah.
And the distributor, so right there, 4 drivers.
I see where you're going, I see where you're going. Okay, last item was the remaining funds to go to, to the road materials. I would move that any funds remaining that are available would be moved to road materials for road and bridge.
Any funds from where?
From the 800 and something thousand dollars that Luana had calculated as being available at the 26 point, whatever tax rate it was.
Whatever funds are remaining from the 2632 tax rate.
Yeah.
Could go to the road
How
materials.
much?
Well, I don't know yet, because I haven't figured all the fringe on all these other things. I'm sure
800.
you're in the area of
Half a
1
million.
point, no, it'll be closer to $1 million.
Million. Okay.
Thought you might put that toward the contractor.
Well, I guess he can come back to court and ask for some of it to be moved if he needs to.
Okay, you made your motion?
Yeah.
He made the motion and there's a second. I was waiting for Luana to get through figuring.
Oh,
Who seconded?
that'll be about 6 o'clock.
Well, I mean, how much are we talking about? I'll ask again then.
Well, that's what I'm trying to come
Well,
up
that's
with.
what I thought you were, and you hadn't got it yet, and so.
Oh,
Well,
that's 'cause I
we'll-
keep
we'll
getting
wait.
sidetracked. Okay, what's another 5 minutes? Of course,
And this is
what-
not gonna be an accurate figure, I don't think.
It will not be to the penny, no, sir.
This is what she started out working against right here. So,
Be right at $1 million.
whatever we spent off of that,
Yeah, it should be about $1 million.
yeah.
So is the starting point 800,000 right now, that's left over, or
It-
that's gonna be?
If
No,
I,
that is just what was moved from the budgeted dollars to unencumbered funds.
the figure that I believe we're working against is
$137.
$1,313,372.48.
And so you're saying to, I guess, hire 2 positions for road and bridge, right? And then buy a tractor.
No. Unbelievable.
25, 74.
Only one, right? The truck driver.
Yeah, only one truck.
One driver.
One driver, but we voted on the assistant to the engineer.
If-
So it's 2 positions, 2 total positions, a truck, and now we're seeing what's left to go to road materials.
All to materials. So that could be like maybe a few, so 100,000.
But, I mean, originally,
Again, we took out, what, 600 and something out of it?
yeah, I don't know, let me look, I can find it, I think.
700?
Yeah, that's where it's kind of amazing. It's an over $20 million budget and very little bit of it's is materials, actually.
$1,467,571.24. Roughly. I got it twice though, so maybe that's right.
1,467,571.24.
Correct.
That would be to road materials, Alana?
Yes.
Okay. I was wrong. The figure that I had was not correct.
That's because I had to reallocate the tax rate to make sure that everything additional went to road and bridge.
Oh, okay.
Okay, are you satisfied with that figure?
That's a rough figure, yes.
It's not accurate. It's what rough means.
It may be off by a few dollars, but it's not off by a few thousand.
We, and we're not allocating a specific amount, we're allocating the remaining.
The remainder that's left in the,
After all other adjustments.
after, what are all of the adjustments? I just want to make
These
sure
2
we all
positions that
understand.
we just created,
Okay.
plus all their fringe, plus the tractor.
Okay. Is that what everybody understood?
Yes, sir.
All in favor of that signify by raising your right hand. All opposed, same sign. I vote against. Motion carried 4-1. Okay. What next?
For the board, right?
Is that all?
So 6 o'clock.
6?
Have you got figures available for 6 o'clock meeting?
See you then.
All right, 2 hours. You're good. Okay, motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
Second.
Second. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. All vote for adjourn until 6 o'clock. That's when our next meeting
We're
is,
gonna meet here or in there?
wherever we can get in.
I guess it depends on.
You have to convene in here.
Soldier show up.
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 Convene in here.